All right, let's talk about something we all do, every single day, without even realizing it. We're going to peel back the curtain on the secret language of conversation, a language made of tiny words that, believe it or not, hold a massive amount of power.
So, you know those words, right? The ums, the likes, the you-knows. We've all been told at some point that they're just bad habits, sloppy speaking, things we need to get rid of to sound smarter. But what if I told you that's all wrong?
Yeah, you heard me. Think again, because these aren't verbal mistakes. They're actually a kind of secret superpower. They're not a sign of weakness at all. They're one of the most clever, sophisticated tools we have in our communication toolbox.
To really get this, we have to stop calling them fillers. That name just doesn't do them justice. It's time to redefine these little guys and see them for what they truly are, the unsung heroes of our everyday speech.
Their proper name is Discourse Markers, and their job is absolutely vital. Seriously, think of them as the glue that holds our conversations together. They're the little signals we use to connect our ideas, manage the back and forth, and show how we're feeling about what we're saying.
But okay, that term, discourse marker, it's got two parts, right? And to really understand what these markers are doing, we first have to get a handle on that first word, discourse. What in the world is that?
Well, this breaks it down perfectly. Think about language in levels. At the bottom, you've got sounds. You put those sounds together, you get words. You arrange those words, you get sentences. But we don't just speak in isolated sentences, do we? No way. When we put those sentences together in a real situation, telling a story, having a debate, just chatting with a friend, that is discourse. It's language in action, and it's where these markers get to shine.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Professor Rajesh Kumar from IIT Madras nails it when he says, these markers are essential for making us coherent. They're what makes sure our ideas actually hang together and make sense, turning a random string of sentences into a real, meaningful conversation.
Okay, enough theory. Let's see this stuff in the wild. Because when you see a conversation with them and without them side by side, the difference is, well, it's kind of mind-blowing.
So check out this chat between Mira and Cheetage. Now, the version on the left has 0 discourse markers. It's just, I bought a villa in ECR last week. There is an EMI. It sounds like a robot, right? So abrupt, so stiff. But now, look over at the right. We just add a so, an o, and a you know, and suddenly the whole thing just flows. It feels like real people talking.
See what happened there? That little word so eases into the topic. O shows the Kitij is actually listening and is surprised. And you know pulls Mira in, creating this little moment of shared understanding. It's these tiny markers that make the whole dialogue feel emotional, engaging, and just human.
So let's pop open the hood and look at this conversational toolkit. Because these markers aren't just one-trick ponies. Oh no, they have a ton of different jobs. And once you see them, you'll start noticing them everywhere.
For starters, they're like little signposts for our opinions. If I start a sentence with wow or absolutely, you know I'm about to say something positive. But if I start with honestly or to be honest, you kind of brace yourself for some real talk, maybe something a little more critical. They totally set the stage.
They're also like the architects of our conversations. When someone says first of all, they're laying down the foundation for their argument. And when they add on top of that, they're building on it, adding another layer without making everything a jumbled mess. It's all about creating structure.
And sometimes you really need to make your point land, right? You got to turn up the volume. That's where these come in. Saying, this is hands down the best pizza is way more powerful than just, this is the best pizza. And when you say, for instance, you're telling your listener, pay attention, here comes the proof.
Of course, conversation is a two-way street. So markers like, did you get that? Are these quick little check-ins to make sure everyone's on the same page. And then you have contrast markers like, at the same time, or that said. These are so important for showing that a topic isn't just black and white. You're about to introduce another side to the story.
And finally, how do you stick the landing? How do you let people know you're wrapping it all up? Well, you use concluding markers. Phrases like overall, or in a nutshell, or all in all, are the verbal equivalent of a final paragraph. They signal to everyone, okay, here's the main takeaway.
So, after looking at all of this, it becomes pretty clear these little words are doing some heavy lifting. Let's just quickly recap why this all matters so much.
Okay, here's the bottom line.
First, and this is the most important part, they're not fillers. Not at all. They're what give our conversations structure and flow. They're how we signal our feelings and our attitude. They are literally the secret ingredient that makes our speech sound natural and human. Basically, they're an incredibly powerful communication tool hiding in plain sight.
When you boil it all down, it's really this simple. Anyone can string together a few sentences, but discourse markers, they're what transform those sterile, robotic sentences into a living, breathing human connection.
So, I'll leave you with a little challenge. Now that you're in on the secret, now that you know this hidden language exists, what are you going to hear in your next conversation? Really listen. I think you're going to be amazed at what you find.